And all right, so let's get to some more craziness because everything is crazy. Right-wing media personality Laura Loomer, who I think I first saw when she chained herself to Twitter headquarters. Am I remembering that right? And ran onto the stage during a play. She's been traveling as part of Trump's entourage, including to the 9/11 event, where she didn't mention her personal theory that she's said on Twitter that it was an inside job. And so she also tweeted some deeply offensive remarks about Kamala Harris. So let's put this up on the screen and see if I can actually see it and read it. But it's the White House will smell like curry. And a friend of mine said, that sounds pretty good, actually. And you will get something through a call center, because call centers are in India. I don't even understand that joke, but it's about how Indians are in call centers. Okay, I think that, this is obviously a bit of racist. I think it's just obviously racist. I mean, you're attacking her for being Indian, and civil rights hero and monitor of Jewish space lasers, Marjorie Taylor Greene, weighed in, telling Loomer to get rid of the tweet. So this is MTG's tweet. This is appalling and extremely racist. This Marjorie Taylor Greene. It does not represent who we are as Republicans or MAGA. This does not represent President Trump. She's on the plane with him. This type of behavior should not be tolerated ever. Laura Loomer, take this down when Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling you a racist. So it's a problem. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene a few years back talking about Muslims in Congress.
There is an Islamic invasion into our government offices right now. Okay, you saw after midterm elections we saw so many Muslims elected. I don't know the exact number, but there were quite a few. We had that woman out of Minnesota. Now she's going into Congress and she's got to wear a head covering. They want to put their hand on the Quran and be sworn in. No, you have to be sworn in on the Bible.
Well, you don't, but wow, but the curry smell really just offended MTG there. Guys, I'll tell you what, I saw this, and Laura Loomer, and those of you who don't know about her, your life is so much better than mine, because unfortunately we live in this world and have to interact with people like this. She's a foul individual who, and I'm just going to say it, appears to have some mental health issues. She's a bit of a crazy person. I mean, 9/11 is an inside job, and she is yesterday on September 11th. This is not even a big news story. This is how far away we are from 9/11. I was in New York City on 9/11, and it's just kind of passing these days without people noticing. And so much so that the former president of the United States is, I think, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where a plane was taken down by people who heroically tried to save themselves, with Laura Loomer, who tweeted that 9/11 was an inside job. Josh, because we're on the internet and because the free press allows me the freedom, what the ever-loving fuck is going on? This is really crazy to me. I mean, I know this has been going on for a long time. I hear people saying it. There's been cranks and weirdos that have been elevated in this version of the Republican Party. But good Lord, on the plane during a campaign that is a razor-thin margin that I suspect if it was another candidate would not be a razor-thin margin. What is going on? What do you make of this?
Boy, there's so many things I want to say. Number one, I mean, it is striking. I had the same reaction as you, Michael, that we're now, 23 years since 9/11 happened. It still seems very fresh in my memory, but there's a whole generation that wasn't either alive or doesn't remember 9/11. And I think some of the lack of seriousness in our politics, the lack of, the fact that, we barely talked about foreign policy and we don't have serious conversations about national security, no less having a crank, a 9/11 denier in Trump's entourage during that somber moment. It's disgraceful, but we're not a serious people anymore. And I do fear that my second point is that the memification, as we've all been talking about so eloquently, just really is doing damage to our discourse and our democracy, and it's not getting better. I mean, the downstream effects of our culture are seen in our politics, and we're seeing this getting worse every election cycle, and the reward for being crazy, like being crazy, is now like what's normal on TikTok. Like TikTok rewards like people who are just nuts. And it amplifies their views, and these platforms that actually reward extremism and reward, frankly, like some people that I think are a little off, and that is scary when your incentive is to be crazy to get clicks or to get attention. And I don't think enough people, especially at the tech, at a political level, but also at the tech level, that are creating these products, I don't think they realize what they're doing to our democracy and to our politics.
I mean, Franny, you said you were talking about this, the online nature of things. And, look, there's a lot to be said for there being no gatekeepers on certain things. I mean, I think it's great in some way. But if you go back to the 1960s, when there was a gatekeeper that, people like Tucker Carlson now sneer at, William F. Buckley, who made a very, concerted effort to get the kooks out of the Republican Party, because there's always going to be kooks in the party, right? And those are the Birchers and the anti-Semites and things like that. Are we just, look, I sometimes make the argument that, look, it's just a bunch of online people who are paying too much attention. But when there's somebody on the plane with the president going to the 9/11 stuff, am I wrong or am I hyperventilating a little bit that the Republican Party has a really bad kook problem, and it's actually in the mainstream of the party now?
Yeah, I think the fact that she's on the plane, she's attending the 9/11 memorial events and has that past, I think it's clear that there is a problem with elevating these types of figures, frankly, who are maybe conspiratorial, although there's conspiratorial people on all sides, frankly, of our politics today. I do want to go back to just the idea of us all being a little bit too online. I have friends, I'm in my 20s. All of my friends get all of their information from TikTok now. Like when they want to Google something, they actually just go to TikTok and look it up.
Is that
there
true?
Instead. Yes.
That's not true.
That's
Franny,
true.
don't tell me that. Oh
That's
my God.
true.
Is that serious?
I don't.
I'm in my 20s too, but I didn't know that. Wow. Holy cow.
So yeah, you got to get on TikTok to find all the things about the world. But I will say that, I think there are people that will say, oh, whatever's happening on the internet, yeah, it gets kind of crazy, but it's on the internet. But I think there's no better example of how what happens on the internet permeates our politics better than what Trump said at the debate about Haitian migrants, right? Here's this thing. It went viral on Twitter. It seems really crazy. Nobody looks into it. Nobody fact checks it. And it makes its way onto the presidential debate stage, right? And so I think that this is just another example of that. When those figures enter into the mainstream, all of a sudden, we no longer have any... I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
I think it's an interesting point, because we have this saying that we repeat like a mantra, that Twitter isn't real life. But is it not real life when the president of the United States, former president of the United States, potentially the president again, makes it real life? It becomes real life when the president of the United States does bring that person along on the plane too. Something that really disgusts me, to the 9/11 thing. Batya, I wonder what you think about this. I see you kind of, I don't know how you fall on this one. Not necessarily about Laura Loomer, but, because I think we agree on this, that we hate gatekeepers and everything. But is there not someone to keep some of these real cranks out of the party? Because I think it's really bad for the party too.
What's amazing is what we're seeing right now is a reversal of 2016, because it used to be that the Democrats, who were catering to the elites, were way too online, were constantly tacking way too far to the left to appeal to the super online crowd, and thus pushing all of this identity politics. And then 2020, defund the police, decriminalize illegal border crossing crap that Americans hate, because they were super online. And meanwhile, Trump was cleaning up with the working class. And right now you have Donald Trump terminally online talking about Haitians eating cats, and Kamala Harris totally disavowing identity politics, totally disavowing special pleading, totally tacking to the center, disavowing herself, by the way, from 2020,
Yes, yeah.
because the Democrats have read the room, right? And not the online room, right? And meanwhile, the messaging to Trump is coming from inside the plane. You know, I was asked recently on a conservative show, so you're voting for Trump? And I said, no, I'm an undecided voter. I am not going to vote for somebody whose closest advisor is tweeting that the White House is going to smell like curry. And I am not going to vote for somebody whose vice president cannot disavow a Holocaust minimizer / denier. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. And I'm one of the people who I feel I could have done a better job representing Trump at that debate than Trump did. I mean, I am such a fan of his policy, but you cannot travel on a plane with a person who says the White House is going to smell like curry. I'm sorry. That is a total red line. And you know why I'm so angry? Because his platform is a consensus platform. His agenda is a unity agenda. He's running with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., and then he's sitting on a plane with a racist. It's so unacceptable and disappointing. It is a betrayal. It is a betrayal of his agenda and the working class Americans who rely on him to improve the lives of their children. So that's where I fall on that, Mike. I don't know if that's what you were expecting.
No, what I'm doing now is I'm frantically texting the Free Press social media people, say, can you clip this because Batya is an undecided voter? That's just surprised me. I mean, and it's a good reason to be an undecided voter because the plane is carrying racists. And, you know, people also look, there's a reason I think that the Free Press, you know, I did an interview on Honestly with Victor Davis Hanson about this Martyr Maid guy, this Daryl Cooper guy, and what he says about World War II. And, you know, a couple pieces, you know, Neil Ferguson wrote one. I mean, we did a lot on this. And I think there's a good reason to do that. And it's because it really is permeating a certain element of the right. And it's like, I am totally fine if you want to debate Howard Zinn, who is a revisionist of the left. But there are kind of red lines here, like, wait a second. The reason these people hate Churchill is because they like Hitler, just so you know. That's why David Irving wrote a 2-volume thing, just defaming Churchill. But this is actually really, and so I started making a list. And if anyone wants to send me, you know, emails, texts, tweets to add to this list of big social media accounts, big ones. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of followers who have a mixture of MAGA stuff and anti-Semitism. I mean, I will send you, maybe Josh, I'll send it to you so you can, the Jewish Insider can say, here is a list. It's unbelievable. I am a person who says this wasn't happening with Elon Musk. I don't think it was a big, but it really is. It's really there. I'm seeing it so much.
And I think that what you just hit on, Michael, is the key point, which is for 10 years, they called them Nazis, you know, and people like me were saying, this is a canard. I mean, that was Holocaust denial, right? To say like that these people are Nazis because they want a secure border, right? And now it turns out that they won't condemn It's like, why are you proving the lamest, lowest form of democratic politics right? And that is what I find infuriating about it. Franny, what's your reaction to all of this fringe stuff online? I mean, is this something, I mean, how does this translate on TikTok into news? Is it only sort of fodder for democratic politics?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually thinking about it in terms of my own reporting. I spent a ton of time in Michigan last week, which we all know is a critical swing state in this election. And I was talking to this one young Jewish woman who told me, she's like, if you look to the extreme of either side, they're basically all holding hands. And she was talking about how in Detroit, there was this anti-Israel rally where David Duke was present, talking about how, you know, he was also, you know, being genocided by the Israelis, just like Palestinians. And so I think that there's this, I mean, it is the horseshoe theory that we're seeing in real time right now. And I think it's starting online, but it's permeating all aspects of society because these people are getting elevated. They're gaining their platforms and they're, you know, they have followers and people that listen to what they say as gospel and don't question it.
One final thing I'm going to say on this is, as I think the goy in the virtual room, I'm not sure about Francesca. I haven't asked her yet, but she has a nice Italian first name. So I don't know about you, Francesca. But this is the Goyish response to this is, you know, this is the horseshoe theory that has existed from time immemorial. The oldest hatred is the oldest hatred for a reason. And if you go back to the 1920s, which these goofballs on the internet seem to want to go back to in so many ways and seem to be referencing it in ways that they don't quite understand, is that the argument was always, and this is the special place of Jews in the political debate, is you're blamed for literally everything. So on the far left, you're hated, on the far right, you're hated. And the argument then was the Bolshevik Revolution, which has been revivified by Candace Owens, of all people, who has multiple millions of followers, that the Bolshevik Revolution was a Jewish revolution. And then, on the other side, it was the capitalists, the Jewish capitalists. It's the Rothschilds, it's the moneyed people. And there's something amazing when you look back at this stuff, that there's one continuity in politics over the years that is not interrupted by technology. It is not interrupted by any sort of strange aberrations in politics. It's that you can always blame the Jews. And when you start doing it, it is that that you've reached a very dark place, and both people have to start doing a very, very serious purge. Very serious purge. And no one's taking it seriously. Right. And I say this as the non-Jew in the panel, take it seriously, because even if you don't care about these issues, I do care about these issues, but even if you don't care about these issues, you have to understand that throughout history, that has always led to something darker. And the Holocaust is the darkest place you can go, right? But there's other darker elements too. If you think it's safe, it's the Jews, a small portion of the population. It's just actually about Israel. It's just actually trying to debate history. No. You don't understand history if you think that is the history of this type of hatred.
We have to transition to our next topic, but I can't move on without giving you, Josh, since we have the editor-in-chief of the Jewish Insider, just very quickly, in 30 seconds or less, is this going to impact the Jewish vote at all? Do you think? I mean, we have seen Jews trending slightly towards Trump, perhaps less than we might have thought after October 7th. It's now, I think, 60-40 maybe, where it used to be 70-30. Give us, in 30 seconds, the Jewish vote.
Yeah, there are a lot of politically homeless, moderate Jews, they're all over the political map, but there's a large critical mass of moderates, mainly moderate Democrats. We've seen these primaries against Jamal Bowman in New York, Cory Bush. The Democrats have actually cleaned house. They've ousted 2 squad members, and that's what it's going to take. Efforts within the parties, not the Republican Democratic battles, but the debates within the parties. And the thing about the discussion we just had that I think is concerning is I talk to Republicans and Democrats that acknowledge that the Tucker wing is a fringe in the Republican Party, online mostly, the pro-Hamas wing of that is a fringe, but they're scared of confronting those fringes. They worry that the shadows they see online represent something far darker and far bigger, and that's the courage. But Barry always talks about courage is contagious. It takes courageous people within the parties to speak out against the extremes within.
Very well put.